What up, visuals? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm proudly excited and like I said, excited to let you guys know about this series that I'm going to be making, and this video will be the first episode in that. I'm going to give a quick intro, then we'll get right into it, because I know people like me to get past my introductions, but really quickly, this is going to be a series where I give basically a review over the rosters that did qualify for the Call of Duty World League Season 1. We obviously had the qualifier this past weekend, which I believe a link in the description to a full-on recap of the first day and also day 3, or the entire thing overall, in the description. So if you guys are curious about that, how these teams got here overall, we talk about this in this video, but if you see all the other teams who I'll be talking about later in the series, you can also check out that there as well. So obviously there were a bunch of teams from the ANZ and the EU, but I'm going to just speak specifically on the NA. I'm more of an expert on the NA side of things, and I've been watching these guys, especially this team we'll be talking about today, play and cast over them a lot, and I'm really excited to be bringing you guys this series. This is highly anticipated, and actually I've seen a couple people ask me about them, could I do something, can I talk about these teams more in depth, and I'm really excited to bring you guys this series in order to do so. So I'm going to let you guys know a little bit of a background on how this series is going to work. We're going to talk about their specialists, the team roles, the history that these rosters have gone through, the players, how this team meshes together. We'll go over their pool, their full-on run throughout the entire tournament this weekend, and also we'll be talking about the teams who do qualify in the online qualifier taking place on December 14th through the 16th. So I want to let you guys know that as well. We'll talk about all 12 teams, super in depth for each video. Have a separate video for each one. Today, though, we're going to be talking about our first team, which is going to be Posse On Esports. Now, Posse On, or AES, is a fairly new organization. I don't remember. I think they had like a previous name and they kind of changed it. I don't think they're new to Call of Duty, but this particular name is new to the Call of Duty scene. Like I said, the name is Posse On Esports. Their rosters consisting of Legal, Lacefield, Fizzerp, and their captain being Fears. So some previous teams and where these players have been. Speaking on their roster, Lacefield has been on teams like Mutiny. He's been on XGN. He's been on Thrust along with Fears for the Call of Duty. I think that was the World Championships, basically in New Orleans. The World Finals, for the last event for Advanced Warfare. And I actually watched Lacefield. I casted over him in a Perfect Alliance tournament. For those who may not know, it's basically an organization that gives and has tournaments and stuff here and there, show matches and whatnot. But basically, what really happened was I had heard about him, and I didn't really know too much about him. He was on a team with Mutiny, on a team with Neglect, and I knew who Neglect was, but I didn't really know who this Lacefield guy was. Well, I turn on the stream, I'm watching it, casting over them, and I just see Lacefield completely go off. He was a Dawn in Search and Destroy, at least when I cast over him, which is kind of like the end to Advanced Warfare. But watching him play for that team, completely dominated, was like, okay, this guy's pretty good. I was also on a team with Reviction, I believe, on Mutiny 2, who's a very, very solid search player, and I knew those guys were pretty good at it, so I figured they would win, but Lacefield definitely surprised me the most out of each one of them. So that was a little bit of a backstory on Lacefield. Next player we're going to talk about is going to be Fears. Fears went through a different bunch of rosters. At least in the past, he's been on teams with Rise, along with like Pac-Man and Wheats, and also his teammate his teammate Legal. Was later on a team with Prophecy, also with Legal, and then kind of toward the latter parts, he was on TCM, which, was a pretty big deal. Saw him play, wasn't the best TCM squad that we've ever seen, obviously, but he did have some good moments. He was on the team, as an AR, and, performed pretty well. And then obviously he went on the roster with Thrust Nation, along with Lacefield, that was on a team with him called Thrust Nation. I believe the other two teammates were Mochilla and Royalty, and they obviously didn't have the best event there either. So Fears, fairly well known. I'm sure if you've been in the Call of Duty scene for a while, you most likely know of Fears. But we're going to move on to a guy that I'm sure you know of, being Fizzerp. Fizzerp definitely did not have the year that he wanted to in Advanced Warfare. Being on rosters like Strictly Business for a very long time, then later moved on to teams like XGN. Constantly just, kind of was thrown from roster to roster and just did not see the success that he wanted to. Team with like Killa and Study, and Spacely, just did not see that same success that he wanted to, in his main game type being Search and Destroy, just didn't really happen for him. And our last player being Legal was obviously on a Prophecy with Fears that we talked about later, went to some other rosters. I believe he was on U4X. I'm not really sure if that's actually 100%. I should know that, but I don't. Then later went to teams like 3's Up, but just really didn't have a whole lot of success either. None of these guys really had that much success, regarding Lacefield toward the latter parts. He kind of got a little bit more known. But speaking far as this tournament, now that we've kind of talked about their previous history, this team, at least in a lot of people's opinions, for the Call of Duty World League qualifiers, were a major surprise, if not the biggest surprise, out of any of the teams who did qualify for this weekend. But these guys have been absolutely grinding. When it comes to online, when it comes to playing GBs, UMGs, whatever it may be, search and destroy tournaments, they are constantly grinding, not even taking a break. I mean, I see Fizzert playing all the time, constantly seeing Lacefield also play. Like, these guys are just in it for the grind, and they have been so hungry to want to qualify for this weekend, and they absolutely proved themselves there as well. I think in every tournament that I've casted for GB, and I've casted around like maybe 5 or 6 times, every tournament, at least maybe not once, but every other time, they've always been in the tournament, got to cast over them a lot, and they looked pretty strong. I was like, these guys, they're getting knocked out every once in a while. They actually got knocked out by DT a couple tournaments. I was like, these guys are pretty good. They're not like my favorite team, but they've grinded out a lot, and I'm a really big fan of their search game. Hardpoint game is not too bad as well, and we'll talk about that later with actually an interview with Lacefield that I believe Deserto had. Now I'm going to go over their tournament run at the obviously at the Call of Duty World League qualifiers, which happened this past weekend, and go over their group and exactly what steps they had to take into qualifying. Exactly. So in Group A, they had E6 Gold themselves, Opti Gaming, and Orbit GG, to go against. And obviously, everyone coming into this tournament was saying, "Oh, well, we got Opti Gaming, and we'll most likely have E6 Gold. If not 100% E6 Gold and 100% Opti Gaming." Myself included. Even casting over Apotheon, I thought that this E6 Gold squad of the old SB being like Dido and Apathy and Sensor and Saints, that those guys were just going to roll over AES. Whether it was the Search and Destroy, which I thought AES would actually take, and they ended up doing that. It came down to the hard point, and they just dominated, absolutely surprising everyone. That being the first match of the tournament, definitely set themselves up where everyone was like, okay, these guys are actually pretty talented. So how their game with E6 Gold went exactly like this. AES absolutely dominated their first hard point, ended up winning that one, and honestly, they had really good picks and bans. E6 Gold just kind of seemed under-practiced, and to be honest, looking back at their tournament run, I think they were probably one of the worst teams at this event, so not taking anything away from AES, but everyone thinking that this E6 Gold team is going to be great, and then AES coming in and just sweeping them out, we're like, how good is this Apotheon team actually? We were seeing Legal go off. We were seeing, fantastic search performances from both Lacefield and Fizzer, and then Fears doing the work with the AR as well. We'll talk about Fears more in depth here in a minute because I really want to talk on him. And then also when it came to the Search and Destroy, AESM came out and 6-0'd them. Just completely showing that how much better they were in every single game type compared to AES. It came down to the uplink, they also won that one as well, making it a 3-0, the first 3-0 of the tournament, the first game of the tournament, and that would move Apotheon to play, I believe, Opti Gaming. And so as most people predicted, when it came down to the hard point, Opti Gaming came out and destroyed them in that. When it came to the Search and Destroy, that was the only game that Apotheon won, but still 3-1 performance. That's not bad. They obviously did much better than how Orbit GG fared against Opti Gaming, but still, Apotheon did end up losing to Opti Gaming, which would put them down in the second place matchup, where they would face the winner of Orbit GG and E6 Gold, the only map that E6 Gold would take the entire tournament after losing to Apotheon. Orbit GG would 3-1 them, basically kind of looking to see, and we were kind of curious, how is Orbit going to line up with Apotheon? For the fact that Orbit's a pretty good team, the roster of Pac-Man, they have Wheats, and they have Accuracy and Lawless, a pretty good team, not everyone's favorite roster by any means, including myself, but they're still fairly solid, and it came down to this matchup, everyone was curious how they're going to do. This, the spot is going to be massive for them, and they end up winning 3-1, which meant that Apotheon would actually end up qualifying. We saw some fantastic plays from both, I believe it was, Fears and Legal both. I think Fears had an insane 4-piece with the Annihilator, which I'll show you guys.
Lawless falling to the secondary pistol.
I hope he didn't pop his overdrive for that.
I actually have no idea.
Looks like
he did. Yeah, so that's a major play as it comes in later on into this game. Obviously, he can earn that back, but not going to be used in a scoring opportunity. The Psychosis is now dropped by Fizzer. He's not able to do anything with it. Fears, though, says, here's my Annihilator. There's one, there's two. Make it 3. He gets all 4. Fears with the quad feed. Absolutely sick. They're now going to push that drone. Look at the accuracy. So we see.
That's incredible. Probably one of the best highlights of the entire weekend. And this play from Legal on Breach. I believe it was Breach TTF. He comes absolutely in so clutch. This was basically the tying factor where Orbit GG was going to kind of take that, a little bit of lead or a little bit of leadway that Apotheon had at the time. And when it came down to it, Legal nearly is able to return this flag back. And I'm just going to show you guys the clip. This is by far one of my most favorite moments from the NA side of things.
From them to use the cover and shack, but the bigger aspect of this is it bought some time for the opposing team to get towards their base. It does look like Lawless is going to get it. No, but the shot, it comes in. He gets it. Did he get the return?
He got the return.
He did get the return. Oh my God, what a play there by Legal. The saving grace for Apotheon, heartbreaking for Orbit.
And you can see in that play, like, Legal kills Lawless, who almost caps the flag, and then after that, Legal just runs, narrowly is able to get the return, and that was what kind of led a lot of success to them. Seeing a lot of interviews with Lacefield this weekend, he was talking and saying, that play right there, after we already were up 2-1, we were thinking, that's exactly what we need, that's how we're going to win this entire game, this entire series, and that's what, obviously, letting them end up qualifying. So I'm going to give you guys some stats, and throughout this entire, series of things, I want you guys to know, I'm going to leave a link down in the description to @COD_stats on Twitter. Make sure to follow them. They're the best stat checkers, on Call of Duty in general, and they do a fantastic job. So I'll have this link. All of these stats are from them, and I'll also leave a link to the group stages of how all these stats are broken down on their website there too. So overall KDs for Apotheon, starting us off was Fears with a 1.05, looked very, very solid. He's probably, and honestly, in my opinion, coming out of Advanced Warfare, was probably one of the best ARs, but when you have people to look in front of him, he had the Claysters, he had the Formals, the Slashers, and the Octanes, and he was kind of in that 5th, 6th spot. People didn't really know too much about, Fears. He was very, very good while he was on that TCM team. I watched him play. I think he was on VVV for a short period of time. That might actually be wrong. I'm not too sure. I know Fizzerp was. But either way, he was just a very, very solid player and just always seemed to kind of turn it up. But whenever he's on a roster with guys he likes, he seems to perform a lot better. He's not just a guy that can go into a game and just, here we go, we're ready to go. He just has to be with a certain roster of guys that he's comfortable with, and obviously that led him to having a very good KD for this tournament, being in the top 10 overall from both groups A and B. From all of these stats, they obviously did play only in Group A, but all of these stats, if I say like a top 10 placing or a top 6, KDs, that means from Group A and B combined. So just letting you guys know that. It's not the entire stages, and like I said, they only played, in their group only. So along with Fears, Legal actually had a 1.10 KD, highest for his team, and also was a top 6 overall KD from, like I said, both groups A and B. And Lacefield finishing off with a 0.98 KD. Not the best hardpoint KD or respawn KD, but just wait. Just wait whenever we get to a search and destroy. It's not even fair. And then closing this out, we had Fizzerp with a 1.01, fairly solid for him as well. Pretty solid KDs from all of these guys without a doubt, and honestly looked very, very solid in all of their game types. But when it comes down to Search and Destroy, these guys were absolutely dons when it came to Search and Destroy. I listened to an interview with Lacefield, and he was saying, if we win a respawn, if we win that first hard point, good luck beating us because we're almost guaranteed that search. And then when it comes down to uplink at CTF, it's not their strongest game type, but they're better at they're not as good as hardpoint as they are at those game types. So it's like we beat you at a game type that we're not the best at. We beat you in Search and Destroy, which we're good at, and then we have CTF and uplink to kind of relay on, which we're also pretty good at there as well. So they're not bad at anything, but they're fantastic in Search and Destroy. We obviously talked about them 6-0ing Enigma 6 Gold. They won, I think, all of their Search and Destroys. They beat Apotheon, and they also beat Orbit there, I think, as well. So, doing very well overall in their Search and Destroy game. So I'm gonna read you guys a couple KDs here. Legal had a 1.33 Search and Destroy KD. Fizzerp had a 1.29, and Lacefield had a 2.42 Search and Destroy KD, highest out of everyone in the entire tournament, both groups A, B, C, and D. Oh my god, a 2.42 KD is not anything to mess with. Granted, yes, they only played, the 3 other teams that were in their pool, they only played 3 matches, only a certain amount of Search and Destroys, but a 2.42 KD is absolutely fantastic. I cannot even give that a grade. That's if you're saying out of 10, how good is that? That's like a 14 out of 10. I don't even know what to say. That's just absolutely amazing. I don't think I've ever seen an S&D KD that high. The only one that I can think of is probably Ricky, who had a really high couple Search and Destroy KDs from Ghosts. But besides that, 2.42 KD, you cannot argue with how talented that guy is at Search and Destroy. I think I posted this on Twitter. I was like, look at this guy's KD. He actually responded back and said how good he got actually at Search and Destroy through the latter parts of AW. I think he said he had around a 1.8 or a 1.9 at a couple events there as well. And obviously, like I said, casting over him, I could already tell how good he really was at Search and Destroy. And I didn't even know the guy. You can just tell his talent was just so good. And as obviously a very young player there as well to kind of complete these group of veterans, especially Fizzerp. But a major reason why Lacefield had this high KD was due to his specialist choices, which was the Heat Wave. Heat Wave is a major pick for a good amount of Search and Destroy players, at least from what I've seen so far, and he absolutely masters it. He uses it in prime positions. I think there was one play, I can't remember who they were playing against. It might have been Opti Gaming actually. But Lacefield actually enabled his Heat Wave, and then I think it was Legal who had the Purifier. So he already stuns every other player. I think there was 4 players there. He stuns all 4 of them with his Heat Wave, and then Legal comes in with the Purifier and kills all 4 of them, got his streaks. I think he actually got maybe his Cerebus as well, so that was fantastic plays for them. They definitely know a lot of chemistry. They have a lot of, just group chemistry together. They know how each other plays, and obviously they've been grinding a lot, so they know each other's play styles for the most part. But like I said, I think a major play from him was him using that in a very effective ways. Obviously you earn your Heat Wave 2 or 3 times a game, and he seemed to use it every time whenever it was absolutely necessary. So fantastic plays from AES this entire weekend. They obviously were the first team in our series to make it from the Call of Duty World League qualifiers, and they will be competing in Season 1 of the Call of Duty World League Pro Division. They're obviously going to have 11 other teams to play against. I think honestly they have a very good chance at being one of the top teams, and obviously competing at COD Champs later this year, which has to do with the Call of Duty World League, is there as well. Going over everything to make sure that we can kind of see what's going on, and I think that's really going to kind of do it. Really excited to see this roster. I'll also say their roster one more time. It is Legal, Lacefield, Fizzerp, and Fears. Really solid group of guys. Honestly, coming into them kind of establishing their roster, I was like, okay, this is a pretty good team, and they've absolutely shown and completed a very major task that a whole lot of people did not predict that they would be in. So major shout out to Posse On Esports. I will put all their links, whether it's their website, their Twitter, down in the description, so you guys should follow them on Twitter there as well to get live updates whenever they're playing in the Call of Duty World League. So that's going to do it for our first episode of the Qualifier roster reviews. Guys, if you want to see me do anything new, or if you just enjoyed the video overall, put it down in the comments. If you guys want to see me do something else, talk about maybe something further, or maybe mention something that I didn't mention in this video that you guys would like to see with a future team, let me know, because I would love to obviously hear some feedback. This is a new series, it's the first episode, and I want to hear your guys' feedback. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, and if you're new here, make sure to leave a like, and also hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out as we make our journey to 4,000 subscribers. So guys, thank you so much for all the support that you guys showed me. I put my Twitter and also my Twitch links down in the description below if you guys are interested. A lot of links to check out down there, so go and do that. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much once again for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next episode, most likely coming out in the next couple of days. As we kind of, progress on, I'll have videos coming out every other day. But a lot of, obviously, it takes a long time to edit these videos, so make sure to take that into consideration as well. So guys, see y'all later. Have a fantastic day, and until next time, peace out.